If the second barrier activates, it signals that the Oriole is once again active. As a result, with its Gospels, anyone will be free to draw out its power. The Gospels remaining on the Liber Arc were sealed with the Oriole. However, should something that could serve in place of the Gospels be born in the world to come, the Oriole will be free to wield its power in reality again. Welcome back to more of the Legend of Heroes Trails in the Sky SC. We defeated Luciola last time, now only one Enforcer is left, and you can already tell what party we're going to be using. So I brought Tita and Kevin here. You get some extra dialogue if you bring Tita, but it's really not a huge amount. But Kevin is here for obvious reasons, that being Grail Sphere, and just generally being pretty good with buffs. I think I have the time gem on him. Just a heads up, this is post-commentary because my original commentary track for this episode corrupted. But anyway, I think I'm about to show their equipment now. So yeah, here's Estelle and Joshua. They leveled up a few times because I actually grinded Kevin and Tita a little bit against Shining Palms. Because you want to be as high a level as possible for this upcoming fight. Yeah, Tita is now level 89, and as you can see, her defense is actually looking pretty decent because I got the Jormungand on her. Unfortunately, her speed is awful. I have the Divine Cross and Grail Locket on her because, well, I just want to do anything I can to make Tita useful in this fight. Speaking of which, in terms of her augments, I've got Strike 2 on her for crits, Water Gem to give her more HP, Ruby Gem for more damage, and with that she has Clock Up EX and Clock Down, which is pretty useful. Kevin's stuff is also pretty standard. I have the Grail Locket on him, so he can just go ahead and Grail Sphere everyone. And Kevin still has the Time Gem for speedy buff casting, as well as the Topaz. I don't really know why I have the Sapphire Gem, because it's a little bit redundant with the Time Gem, but I do have this thing here, Gaia Shield. I think this is my first time actually showing this. It requires a lot of hoop jumping to get this onto somebody's augment, and it is more than, like, it's almost triple the cost of Earth Wall. But it does give an Earth Guard to the entire battlefield, which can be very useful in this fight especially, because Renne loves to use her scythe to knock you all around the field, and you might not always be in range of each other for an Earth Wall. I also have Geocatastrophe as a consequence. And here's Joshua's augment if you want to check that out. I've got the Wind Gem on him, and Estelle no longer has the Time Gem, so she's going to be more of a straight attacker in this fight. Okay, let's proceed onward into the Axis Pillar. Now, I will be covering all the rest of the Axis Pillar in this part, because I want the next one to be purely the first of the final fights. Wow, that actually did 0 to the Ardor Ball. Those things do have pretty high arts defense, it looks like. Have we ever seen them do this before? I don't think so. It looks pretty painful. We may be seeing one more... How the heck did that thing drop Tender Poultry and a Bird Egg? But we may be seeing one more level up on Kevin as we go through. Okay, here we have another batch of chests. This treasure chest is on strike until further notice. I waited 4 years for this game and all I got was this stupid chest message. There's nothing in this chest, but you imagine all the things that could have been. As you approach, the chest bursts open on its own. Unfortunately, there's nothing inside. E to the M to the PTY. You imagine this chest as it once was, brimming with treasure and full of delight. You can hardly bear to look at it now. No cool new armor in those chests, just a bunch of EP charges and other, things they really want you to have before fighting Renne next. But I could talk a little bit about Luciola and how she relates to the symbolism of the Lover's Arcana. Now, obviously she relates to the misunderstood symbolism of it being literal love, in that she's pretty clearly a corrupted case of love, in that she fell in love with her father figure, who understandably rejected her advances, gently. By the way, here's Geocatastrophe. And then she decided that he had to die because, that was the only way that he would be hers forever. So yeah, that makes sense. But on the other hand, the Lover's Arcana also follows a theme of choice, and of choosing between two paths, and specifically of irreversible choice. And Luciola, even deep down inside herself after she did it, knew that after she murdered Harvey, there was no going back. That was when she realized the darkness within herself, and it was the turning point that completely changed her life from then on, because she ended up joining Ouroboros, and the rest is history. If she'd been a bit, you know, more sane about taking Harvey's rejection, then things could have been different. And Shara would still have her, her old best friend slash surrogate sister, but no. And in here we have a monster chest that's not often an alcove to the side. We've already seen these things before, so I may as well skip through this. Okay, I decided not to do anything with Kevin on that last turn there because I knew that Joshua's death scream would finish the fight. But now we get the Gaia suits. As you look into the wood grain at the empty chest, you wonder how many chests could be made out of a single tree. I wonder what kind of trees they had up here. But anyway, yeah, there's the Gaia suit in our inventory. It looks to be gender neutral, but it does buff strength and ATS. It does not raise speed though, which is a problem. It'd be kind of made for Joshua otherwise, but it's, I don't know. Here's the thing though, I think I ended up swapping this over to Tita just because it's a drastic increase in speed for not that much of a change in defense. So, yeah, Rip Yormagand barely got used, despite being Tita exclusive. Okay, let's continue. We are quickly approaching the last of the treasure chests in this game. And let's slip by that thing. I'm actually just realizing, though, that listening to this in post, I'm liking Fate of the Fairies a lot more than I did during the live take. It's still a really good song, and honestly, I kind of take back what I said about it getting old here. So, as we move on through this place, guess we can think about who's coming next, and how Estelle's gonna react when she sees her. Estelle completely failed at getting through to Renne last time, due to her naivety in a way. But now she's grown a little bit more. Will she be able to do this? We don't really need much in the way of experience here, so I'm just kind of slipping past these enemies. It's easier to sneak past them if you don't run. Sometimes I find it's useful to hold the turbo button while still just walking. Anyway, S tablets. Inside the empty chest is carved, Olivier is handsome. You briefly wonder if he put that there himself. Wow, he actually ran all the way up this place ahead of us and wrote that there. Nothing. Well, life is full of little disappointments. I can really just picture Olivier doing that. Yeah, I knew there'd be another set of chests here. Armored Barbarossa. Mind doing me a favor and not opening me up again? Hey you! Yeah, you! Stop reading all these chest messages and get on with playing the game! But I'm going for the old chest achievements! Anyway, the Armored Barbarossa is male only, and it does drop your ATS. It doesn't raise speed though, but it does buff strength by quite a lot. So this is kind of the thing you might want to be using if you've got Agate or Zin in your final team. The problem is that it doesn't raise speed. And anything that doesn't raise speed on the higher difficulties is kind of a pain. Now I believe, yes, it is here, right here, this thing. This is the final new enemy in this place, the Armored Comp. A small monster that evolved in another dimension. It looks more mechanical than an actual monster, but yeah. There are a lot of very weird, otherworldly looking enemies in most Trails final dungeons, and there are some people who try and come up with theories explaining those, but yeah. There are some interesting things that come out of the plot of later Trails games, but I can't talk about that at this point. That's for much, much later. Yeah, I get that this series can be a bit of a daunting commitment to some people, knowing just how many games there are, but most arcs do tell relatively self-contained stories, and that's actually the reason why I started with Trails in the Sky as opposed to Cold Steel, which I originally planned to start with because it was the first game in the series that I played. Because Sky, FC, and SC together, there are a lot of sequel hooks for later arcs, don't get me wrong, but their story is very self-contained. At the end of this game, the story of the Gospel Plan is completely over, and Estelle and Joshua have had a full, self-contained journey. So that way, if you've watched these series and have decided that the Trails franchise is not for you, at least you don't have story threads that are left hanging. Anyway, here is the inactive teleporter, here is the door to the next area that's blocked, we know what that means. We're at our fated showdown, and oh boy, this is going to be a tough one. In my first playthrough, this was the one fight in the game that gave me the most trouble, and it's partly because I didn't really have a lot of hype for this fight. I had heard really bad things about the fight immediately after this, and the first Renne fights, but I never read anywhere saying that this fight was particularly hard. Okay, so after feeling around with my augments a little bit, I've saved, and now it's time to finally face off against Renne for hopefully the last time. Let's go. No giant robot with her this time, I guess. Well, I mean, there's really not much other choices. I mean, it'd either be her or Luve, and there's no way they'd throw him at us this early. But honestly, it would be kind of interesting to see an antagonistic organization throw their strongest person at you first. A bit of a tangent, but I once had an idea for a game where the boss doesn't just sit on their throne waiting for you to get there. The boss actually ambushes you partway through the dungeon. But that does sound a little bit mean. Oh, I get the feeling this is, not gonna go well. So, we have the option to completely skip out on this, but that's not the kind of thing Estelle would do. She's not going to take back what she said. And Josh was bringing up a good point too. But it's time for Estelle to handle this on her own. I feel like that's something that Renne's needed to be told for a long time. But I mean, you know, at least Estelle's actually admitting it, unlike Renne, who's kind of a selfish doofus the whole time and doesn't really realize it. But, well, we knew it would end this way. No, you tried your best and you stuck to your principles. I think that's what's important. Ren's the one who couldn't take it. We had hints at that early on. The fact that Renne does have such a violent reaction to what Estelle's saying shows that Estelle is getting through to her. And there it is. Those eyes are almost exactly the same as Joshua's when he was brainwashed. I think that says something. So it's time to face off against Renne once more. Not opening with an S-Craft this time, but she is opening with an annoying knock everyone out of the way so you can't use buffs attack. So, Partamata and Renne will be fighting together in this fight, and Partamata is no longer in defense mode. It's using its full output and is incredibly strong and durable. Renne herself is still a bit of a glass cannon, but she is very fast. Both she and Partamata are immune to debuffs, so don't even try to use those. Focus on buffing yourselves. Now, this fight, the way I did it, is kind of long, but hopefully it's still entertaining to watch. Basically, I like to prioritize safety here, because having to redo this fight and go through Partamata's enormous HP count again is always annoying. You not being able to debuff him can be sort of a pain. Okay, so what I'm trying to see here is, I'm testing out the range of Kevin's Grail Sphere to see if I move him forward, if he's going to be able to catch the three others. And it turns out that he just barely was. So, yeah. And I'm showing the full animation here. I love Grail Sphere so much. Okay, so single target attack, and good that missed. Every miss is always a relief with this thing. It tends to two-shot you, like, all the time. But you really need to make sure you put Clock Up EX on yourselves. Okay, single target attack from Renne is good too. So, Renne herself is actually less of a priority in this fight. You want to take out Partamata first, and there's a very, very specific reason for that. I don't think I had Zodiac on Kevin for this fight. I feel like I kind of should have, but yeah, Zodiac is another thing that I never really used on my first playthrough, but I'm liking it a lot more now. Also, I'm getting pretty lucky with Partamata's accuracy here, because like, I used to think, oh, it costs like almost double the amount of La Crest and La Fort, but getting both those buffs up in only one turn definitely has its uses, and it can buff you no matter where you are on the field, and its cast time is very fast when you have the time gem, which there's no real reason not to use if you're going for a more support setup. So let's go ahead and put this on Kevin. I am giving up a critical S-break from Joshua here, but I really, really wanted to prioritize buffing here. And there's the circle again. And that. Okay, Estelle, I don't think you have the guard up, so that's bad. I think Estelle is dead. Yes, she is, even with a defense buff. So, imagine how much damage that would have done without a defense buff. Yeah, Partamata, like the first fight, is mostly restricted to single targeting attacks, but they all do crazy amounts of damage, and you want to make sure that you're Earthguarded a lot. The normal downside of Earthguard, meaning that you don't really gain that much in the way of CP from getting hit, not really that much of a problem when taking like 2 hits cause you to die anyway. And I'm gonna set up Gaia Shield again just because I really want those Earth Guards. Gaia Shield is yet one more thing that I never really used in my first playthrough. It looks pretty cool. I always kind of considered this awesome but impractical until I went and watched Nightmare Mode videos of the boss fights where the guy playing actually used it quite a lot, and I realized actually it is pretty good. So yeah, sometimes seeing other people, like seeing how other people play boss fights and what strategies they use can actually really help. It's also why I really love watching speedruns of games that I know of and have played. Or sometimes even of games that I haven't played. Okay, Estelle is no longer buffed, but let's go for a big strength buff here. And there's the Gigant Press again. Whenever I see this, I think of Gigant Breaker, but that's another ability from later in the Trails series. I think that's, I think I know whose ability that is, but I won't say because, you know, sort of spoilers. It's a character from a later arc. Okay, yeah, I think here I'm debating whether or not to do this because it means Joshua might go down, but yeah, I have to S-break afterwards just in case Ren takes him out, so let's go for this.
I will run no more.
But Ren is still running. And I think with that I can lead into talking about something. So, Ren's Enforcer number corresponds to the Devil Arcana. And it actually fits her in a lot of ways, because not only does Ren like to manipulate people, which is one of the symbolisms of the Devil Arcana, she also does this. But another aspect of the Devil Arcana's symbolism is addiction, or being trapped in just some kind of cycle or chained down by something that you can't break free of. Being trapped by a kind of unhealthy habit. And in Ren's case, that really fits because this is kind of a dark thing to be talking about, but I do feel like Ren has become addicted to bloodshed as a way of numbing herself to her own pain by forcing others to feel pain. It's really dark, but I feel like the game handles that theme decently well. Ren I find is one of the few, like, I don't know, like, full psycho characters like this that I actually think is handled pretty well. She's not like, I know I mentioned this in the live commentary take, so I'm going to have to recreate it here. Not like, I know that a lot of people like this character, but I don't. Henry from Fire Emblem Awakening, and, like, a lot of people don't like Perry. But to me, Henry and Perry are pretty much the exact same character. Perry's just a little bit more annoying about it. I guess that's why people don't like her. But, like, with Henry, it's just like, oh, yeah, he loves bloodshed and killing and stuff because of his traumatic past. In fact, even that's downplayed in the localization. But it's okay because he's just such a fun, wacky guy. Wouldn't you love to have a guy with a blood fetish as your best friend? Yeah, I'm sorry, yeah, I don't want to, that's from a different game, but anyway, Ren I feel is actually that done pretty well, because she's completely terrifying, but at the same time also tragic, but at the same time not tragic in a, how do I explain this? Like, not cloyingly tragic, like in a way where, I guess Luciola, where the game kind of makes them come across as unintentionally unsympathetic by virtue of trying to say, look, this person has done some awful things, but they're a good person deep down, trust us. You know, they're really just tragic and their tragic past justifies everything they're doing. With Ren, it's interesting because they make a point to explain that her tragic past does not justify what she's doing. And that's especially like what Estelle is trying to say to her this whole time. But they do it in a way that still makes her come across as a character that you both are terrified of, and are also rooting to be redeemed. Because you want to see her break free of that cycle of addiction. You want to see her actually realize that what she's doing is unhealthy and not the way to cope with her pain. She's overall a really great character, and it's part of why I don't want to get too negative, but Luciola suffers a little bit because she has really good competition for antagonists. Yeah, basically I'm trying to get a turn in with Joshua before Partamata because otherwise it could do something, but yeah, we haven't seen it yet, but Partamata has Nestcraft, so I guess Ren, like Luciola technically has 2 S-Crafts, but her second S-Craft is actually Parta Mater's, so not hers. Speaking of Parta Mater, its name comes from Latin for father and mother, which someone in the comments mentioned to me probably should be, pronounced Pater Mater, but given that Renne actually says it in voice acting, which you won't know yet, but she will actually say it during this fight, for reasons, I'm saying it how it's pronounced in the game. Yet, I'm so sorry about all of the different ways that I pronounce the name of the airship, by the way. I wish it was said in voice acting. I know that the Japanese is kind of like our sail, and that's probably how it's supposed to be, but then someone said that it's like Marseille in French, and then... Anyway, yeah, I'm so sorry, but yeah, I've gone all over the place with that pronunciation. But yeah, at least with Parta Mater, I've heard some people who've said it Pater Mater, and that's definitely not right, so... Anyway... I mean, you probably know why it's Latin for father and mother by this point, which is another aspect of how sad Renne's whole situation is. This thing is the best father and mother she has. So something that's actually quite interesting as well is what Renne was saying back when she was pretending to be the lost child in Chapter 3, when she said that her... I love when this is someone who's Earthguarded. When she said that her parents just left her and said, like, we'll be back soon, we promise, we're just going out for work. You'd think that was just like a fake backstory that she came up with when she was tricking you in Grand Cell, but no, like, that is actually what Renne really experienced. For all Renne knows, that's exactly what her parents did when she was abandoned, so it's just interesting thinking back on that. Okay, Josh was gone, which is a lot of buffs wasted, and this is kind of bad because I need to quickly set up buffs, but also need to keep Earthguarding, otherwise Tina will die. Tina's actually been doing pretty well for herself in this fight, which is kind of surprising. Okay, so Renne is getting very close to being down, but the fight is nowhere near over. You'll see what happens when that occurs. I guess I should also mention that speaking of Renne and voice clips, watching a speedrun of this game, I heard that Renne has an unused voice clip where she says "burn in hell." I've never actually heard it myself, and I'm trying to find a way to find the voice clip. Like, the closest that someone's told to me how to find that was saying that you have to use some kind of a Falcom extractor, and I'm a little worried about using that because I don't want to mess up my files for this game. But I really want to find that voice clip and maybe show it in bonus footage sometime, because I love unused content. Anyway, here I'm also trying to estimate whether or not Kevin will be able to catch everyone in Grail Sphere by moving, because his movement is horribly gipped thanks to the Time Gem. Not the Time Gem, the Onyx Gem. And yeah, once again, I just barely caught everyone in the Grail Sphere. Perfect timing too! Because that's part of Marta's S, which, interestingly enough, is one of the few S-Crafts in the game that can actually miss. I mean, it's not like, it doesn't really count as an S-Craft for the looks of things, it's just like a really, really strong normal attack, but given that it gets a full cutscene, I classify it as an S-Craft, even though, like I said there, it can actually miss, which is a little weird. Okay, gonna get that buff back up. Hopefully we can swing things back on track. It's kind of interesting how Renne in this fight is more of an annoyance than anything else. She doesn't really hit all that hard, she's mostly there to just do a little bit of extra damage and knock you around the field. Oh great, Parta Mater found Kevin, that's not good. I deployed Kevin further back just because I wanted to make sure that he wasn't really targeted a lot. And here I can probably afford to go for... Oh, do I... Yeah, I think I actually want Luck Crest here, or not. Do I want Earth Wall? Yeah, usually this is a priority. Honestly, I should have just used Earth Guard because Estelle was the only one who needed it. I just wasted a lot of EP there. But anyway, we're getting through this fight. We're slowly racking up damage on Parta Mater. You want to use arts against it because it has a lot of physical defense, and it is not even halfway done yet. Yeah, this boss is kind of a marathon. In a way, I almost wish that, because the stat screens show that they have the capacity to make enemies immune to specific types of stat down, but not, like, all of them. But it seems like every enemy in the game that is immune to debuffs is immune to all debuffs. Oh, there's Meteor Fall and Volcanic Rave, but I doubt they'll do a ton of damage. So, if they made Ren and Patamata immune to speed down, but not immune to defense and arts defense down, this fight might have been a little bit, faster, because... yeah, the lack of being able to debuff Patamata means that it takes forever to die. Okay, Ren is really close to being down, but we are a little not good on CP at the moment. And also you saw there that Patamata knocks you pretty far across the battlefield with its regular attacks. Another reason why you want things like, you know, the, all-targeting buffs like Gaia Shield and Zodiac. Okay, so Ren is down, but not out, and you'll see why in a moment. Every time Ren goes down, she gets revived by Patamata with about half of her HP. So, yeah, this is, why you want to take out Patamata first, because you will not be able to end this fight unless you do. Like, if you get really lucky and take down Ren and then take down Patamata quickly, you might only be able to deal with one Ren revival, but yeah, this really got to me on my first playthrough. Patamata just kept bringing back Ren, and you can imagine how that went. So, I've seen some sources say that Ren is voiced by Sandy Fox, but I'm not 100% sure if that's true, so don't quote me on that. But if she is, Sandy Fox played Male Kana in Fire Emblem Heroes, Patty Fleur in the Definitive Edition of Trails of Vesperia, and I know she plays a few other characters too. She often plays, like, child characters. Like, I'm not 100% convinced on her performance for Ren in this game, honestly. She sounds a little bit high-pitched. And, like, I would love to hear what Ren would sound with full voice acting, like, if someone actually did it really well. But I don't know if I could really picture this voice for her being used for all of her more serious cutscenes. And Ren goes down for the second time. So let's see if we can keep a count of how many times Ren ends up getting revived. Yeah, bosses with revival abilities in RPGs are always kind of a pain. At least Patamata will always waste this next turn reviving Ren, so you get a bit of a reprieve there. And at least this fight going on for a while means you get to hear more of this amazing song, which some people in the comments have said sounds like a Guilty Gear song. I don't have much experience with Guilty Gear other than the fact that its protagonist is named Soul Bad Guy. And it's made by the same people who made Blaze Blue, and apparently Blaze Blue was originally supposed to be an RPG, but it got turned into a fighting game, and that explains why its story is so convoluted. This is just kind of a complete tangent, but I actually always liked the way the first Blaze Blue story worked. It's the only one that I'm familiar with, because someone I follow on YouTube played through the whole game, and then they deleted all of their videos on Blaze Blue when YouTube started doing copyright laws for the music. So I can't ever watch that again. But anyway, like, it justifies the whole every character has their own storyline and all of them are contradictory thing that fighting games love to do by having the story be a time loop. And that way, everybody's story modes are canon. And also it means that anyone can die in anybody's storyline and they'll come back in the next storyline because it's a time loop. I just always thought that was an interesting way of handling things for a fighting game. Fighting game stories always have that problem where, I don't know, like lately they have changed things with like the newer Mortal Kombat games. Also, Joshua has exactly one EP left. But yeah, they've been doing things like cinematic story modes where there's one story and you play as multiple characters through that story. But before then, they had that thing of deciding like which character stories were canon, which led to things like in Street Fighter where there were like 3 different versions of Charlie's death. And like now I don't think any of them are canon thanks to Street Fighter V.
We're good to go.
But let's not talk about random stuff here. Okay, let's actually go with this. I find the Cannon Impulse F can actually do a surprising... Like, its area is surprisingly good in this fight. Okay, this may not... Yeah, it's not going to catch Joshua, but we're almost done. Yeah, Patamata is getting very close, and really, I should just true Dual Strike it at this point, because Joshua is strength buffed, but instead I decided to... oh, okay, I think I know what I'm doing here. Yeah, it's only fitting for Estelle to get the final blow on Patamata, hopefully. So, we're gonna just see if this works, because I'm not sure this will do 3,000 damage. Patamata has a lot of defense. It did! Nice one! And for the first time, we've actually fully defeated Patamata. And it's just another aspect of the tragedy that Ren just is so torn up by that. Anyway, now we just have to finish this. And, fittingly, she barely has any health left. Tita can finish it. So, yeah, that fight. I'm sorry it took so long, but that's how things tend to go. On my first playthrough, I failed at that fight so many times. And it feels weird that, that I don't have as much trouble with it anymore, but it was just a case of playing blind, I guess, not really being prepared for it, and not really getting any hype that the fight was particularly hard, which it can be if you don't have the right buffs. I didn't have Gaia Shield the first time I played this, so I had to just use Earth Wall, and that was bad when we were being knocked around the field all the time. I still find it really weird that the Seepeth cap for a single element per fight is 70. Seems like a bit of a weird number. But with that, we've actually made a significant impact here. We've actually crippled Patamata. Not totally destroyed it, but one of its legs is completely inoperable. No, we haven't got what we wanted. Not yet. Someone really should be keeping account of those by now. Well, yeah, looks like the jets still work. I think Estelle might have actually done it. It's not a complete turnaround, but Renne is definitely taking her first steps. And I don't know if she'll be coming back to the society again. Renne's story is not over. But we've set her on the beginning of a better path. Oh yeah, you're gonna need it, because what's coming up next is, something that you do not want to underestimate at all. It's gonna be our strongest opponent yet. The Blade Lord himself. Sometimes called the Sword Emperor. I think that's a little bit of a more literal translation. But it leads a lot of people to believe that he represents the Emperor Arcana, but no, his Arcana is actually Priestess. Also, Joshua is really not kidding here, as you can probably tell. You do have a bit of warning as to when the fight's coming. I'm actually going to be going through the next segment of the Axis Pillar in this part, because there's not a lot left to this place, and I want to get the last of the chests out of the way in one video. The next video will just be that fight, and the cutscene surrounding it. Believe me when I say it deserves its own thing. So, we do have a warp back to the start, and I believe that's actually the last of the warps that we unlock. I'm really glad that the warps are, like, for individual floors, and you still keep your old ones whenever a new one is unlocked. But, let's proceed. After we heal, of course. Now let's proceed. Don't worry, there's not much further to go, and all of the enemies here are things we've seen before, so yeah, like that thing. Hi there. I like how Josh was still on exactly 1 EP. It's kind of a nice number to be ending things at here. And this elevator is going to lead us up to, I'm honestly not even sure what floor it is right now. I'm going to guess like 6th or something. But it is interesting to think that this place was basically the city hall of the Leaper Arc. Yep, I was right, 6th floor, and the light bridges have now turned into an ominous reddish-orange color. So you know we're getting close to the point of no return. More of those things. Let's just slip by them quietly. And in this room is not quite our last chest, but almost. Somewhere out there is a person who started playing Trails in the Sky a second chapter before the first game. I bet they're very confused. Yeah, you've already heard my thoughts on that. I'm gonna dodge that one just in case it's monsters. Actually, no, it isn't. Yeah, it's just a bunch of Seepith. Back again? You might be the most desperate hero I've ever met. Breaking news! There's nothing in this chest. More at 11. We're sorry, the item fairies haven't restored this chest yet. Please visit again soon. Okay, well that one was. So I actually just used a Zero Powder to charge Joshua up to 100 CP for that. There's nothing in the chest, but the air inside is strangely humid. So what we got there is what would have been Joshua's best weapon if you didn't make the Phoenix Blades. It's worse though, so we're not going to use that. And okay, so we got the chest achievement there. An empty treasure chest full of promise yet devoid of payoff. A perfect metaphor for me. That's not actually the last chest in the game. Just like FC, the chest achievements tracked one less chest than there are in the game total, and I'm not really sure why. There must be one chest that doesn't count for some reason, and I'm not sure which it is. But there is indeed one more chest here, and it's this one right here. Armored Siglindi. Hey, I know you had high hopes for this chest, but it's empty. Don't worry about it though, maybe the next one will have something great. Actually, there will be no next one. That was it. That's all. Every chest in the game. And here is Armored Siglindi. It is basically the equivalent of the Armored Barbarossa, but for females. But it doesn't boost speed, though, from the look of it, so... yeah, obviously I'm not going to go... well, I'm going to go with that now, because I don't have speed boosting equipment on Estelle anyway, but... normally, I'm not really going to go with this. And this is our final heal point. That elevator with ominous red pillars marks the point of no return. And so, I will see you next time when we head up that elevator for the final battle. See you all then.